I'm Chris Carter of the Locked On Steelers podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers have traded for Justin Fields. What did they give up? What led to this in an incredible turn of events? All that here and more on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. Steelers fans, it has been the craziest week of non-football actual being played season that I have ever seen in my life for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have never seen them get rid of a first-round quarterback, replace him with a guy who's been a franchise quarterback, and along with another guy who was supposed to be a franchise quarterback. And that's what happened with the addition of Justin Fields to a quarterback room that was only being occupied by Russell Wilson after the Steelers traded away Kenny Pickett. Now, as you all can tell, I'm back from D.C. I'm in my home. We're still going through some technical difficulties right now because StreamYard wants to be acting up. But I had to get some content out to you guys because we got to talk about what this means right now. So let's talk about this. First of all, remember what I was saying about the Justin Fields trade yesterday, and I said it might happen with this situation. Now it has, and that's where I look at this and I say, man, it wasn't that hard to see after the Pickett trade that the Fields trade made a lot of sense. But here's the thing, y'all. I said all along when Justin Fields was first announced to be available via trade, I said, hey, maybe, the Bears wanted a first or a second. I was like, the Steelers need to wait for a fourth. They cannot give up a day two pick, a day one pick for Justin Fields. Not with his numbers, not with the fact that his fifth-year option is going to be coming up, and they got to explore. They'd have to explore whether they'd want to use that. All the different things that kind of make it a situation where you have to be, you need a lot of things to line up correctly, especially when you had Kenny Pickett on your roster and his fifth-year option would have been due the same year that you were paying Justin Fields' fifth-year options if you paid it. So a lot of questions there that were leading into it. When Kenny Pickett traded away, those questions went away. And so the question was just about how much would the Bears take? And Omar Khan, the goon that he is, went in to the Bears office and said, hey, remember last year when we gave you Chase Claypool and you gave us a second-round pick? No, you ain't getting no second-round pick. You ain't getting no third-round pick. You're getting a conditionally a sixth that can be upgraded to a fourth for 2025. That is less compensation than what the Steelers got for giving up Kenny Pickett. Now, granted, the Bears are in a much more predictable situation that everyone knows you want Caleb Williams. So that's the kind of the situation that just Chicago's in. Ryan Poles is the GM. It's just his hands might be tied behind his back, and no other shooter came calling. Like, the Steelers waited this perfectly out if they really wanted Justin Fields in their quarterback room, because if they had jumped early, they probably would have had to pay a higher price. But like I said, I was like, let the NFL show the Bears how much that Justin Fields' value is when it comes to trades. Because what happened was they went into free agency. People signed Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, like all the moves were made. And there were other trades that happened, but nobody came looking for Justin Fields for the price that the Bears were asking for. So the Steelers, after they've made their moves, even when it's obvious that they need a quarterback situation to work in their favor, they need a new young quarterback on their roster. They said the Bears, like, you ain't getting no better price. So here, take this conditional pick for next year. My opinion, that's a robbery for what Fields is. Again, I thought a fourth round this year, that was the proper value. But a potential fourth round next year. And I believe, according to what Schefter and Rappaport were saying, this is all about it comes down to play time that's going to determine that. If Russell Wilson starts the whole season, which according to all indications he will, Russell Wilson is QB1. There's no question about this between him and Justin Fields. If that's to be believed, Justin Fields ain't seeing no playing time. So how is that going to change the draft pick? Now, again, we haven't seen the exact contract details of what's going to lead by. But when we look at how this has played out and how the Steelers have handled this situation, they have put them in a situation where Russell Wilson can be the veteran that shows whoever's behind him. This is how the new offense operates under Arthur Smith. He can be coached up. He's a veteran. He knows how to adapt to different offenses. This is his third different team in the NFL. I didn't even look to see how many offensive coordinators he's ever worked with, but he's a guy that knows how to work at the NFL pace. Justin Fields has been in the NFL too, so he can learn behind him. But this is a unique opportunity the Steelers have to say, hey, here's the older vet who's been to the Super Bowl, who's been to the Pro Bowl 9 times. Justin, if you're going to be the future, you can learn behind him, no pressure, because everything's going to be about him at first, and then if you're called upon, if Russell Wilson goes down, or if he has a rough day and they want to see what you got, then you got your chance to shine. And then we get to see just Justin Fields work in this system, where the Steelers are going to probably have a better offensive line after their investments in the NFL draft. And they're going to have the playmakers that they want. Still got to see what they want to do with wide receiver. We'll talk about the Van Jefferson trade another day. That's kind of that's a non-starter conversation right now when we got to deal with Justin Fields. But I think there's so many interesting components of bringing Justin Fields into the Steelers right now. And that also means that if there's the possibility that the Steelers don't use the fifth-year option on him, that wasn't something that, honestly, when I was thinking about this, I completely threw out the idea of him accepting a contract extension that doesn't include a fifth-year extension that comes naturally with the rookie deal, and instead comes with like a Jordan Love type of situation where he has a prove-it year on his contract, where this year he's on the bench, they sign him to another year, and they say, hey, next year you're the guy. Russell Wilson's on a 1 year deal for the vet minimum. He's looking to prove that he can be the guy, the guy that gets paid more money, and maybe the Steelers don't want to pay him more money down the line, and maybe Justin Fields can grow into that guy. So you can say, hey, Justin Fields, did you like the situation here? You think you got an opportunity? Guess what? We can offer that to you. And that also gives the Steelers time to figure out their actual long-term plan, if it's not Russell Wilson for the next 2, 3, 4 years, or if it's not Justin Fields after him. Point being, the Steelers have given themselves options, and I think that's the really good thing that they have going for them right now. And if you ask yourselves this. I'm not even going to say that they are, but ask yourselves this. Is a quarterback room with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields better than what they had last year? And that's a question that you have to look at, and you say, if you look at production, I think a lot of people would say yes. And again, this is not to dismiss the idea that Kenny Pickett didn't have his hardships with the Steelers, with Matt Canada and all the other things that were going on, which he certainly did. But it was obvious from what we've heard that there were issues with Russell Wilson coming in, and the Steelers aren't having that, not when a guy hasn't produced at the level that they need him to produce. They moved him on, and then they went and got Justin Fields. And what did Russell Wilson do? Hey, welcome in, Justin Fields. I think that's a really good sign for the new temperament that might be in the quarterback room for the Pittsburgh Steelers between these guys. But I want to talk more about Justin Fields on the field. We'll do that in just a little bit here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. This bonus episode of the Locked On Steelers podcast is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good from through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal information. Claim is as of the quarter one of 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful, especially when Game Time makes it so easy on an app that you can download right to your phone. Game Time is an app that you can download and get tickets for all your favorite sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They give you killer deals on last-minute tickets, even tickets that come up to an hour after your event has started, and they have the best price guarantee that can't be beat. You go to the website, gametime.co, or download the Game Time app where you can book tickets, and you can look in the app to see just where your tickets are, what the view is from your seat, so you know you're not getting scammed, and seeing that you're getting the best price out there. And again, this is for basketball, hockey, football, baseball, comedy, movies, whatever Game Time can get you in, you're going to get the best price. And their best price guarantee means that if you find tickets to the same event in the same section and row for less somewhere else, you show that to Game Time, they will give you a credit of 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase, or go to the website, gametime.co. Terms and conditions apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKED ON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Continuing this emergency episode. I feel like this is like my 11th emergency episode of the week. It's ridiculous. But hey, this is what we do. All right, let's talk more about Justin Fields. So I want to look at Justin Fields just on the field and what he's done so far by the numbers and looking at the things that he's done. Obviously, when you look at Justin Fields, you have to take into account he is a different kind of player when it comes to running the football than Kenny Pickett. And that's where I think the biggest differences are there, even from Russell Wilson, who also can show mobility. But this is a guy in Justin Fields who had 1,100 yards rushing in 2022, 8 rushing touchdowns that same year as well. 657 yards rushing with 4 touchdowns this past year. Now, he does fumble quite a bit, and I guess that comes with what he does. 38 fumbles in his 3-year career so far. And that's not good. The Steelers have to clean it up. They're all about protecting the football. That is a big part of this. And that was also one of my knocks to why I was saying, hey, I wouldn't trade more than a day 3 pick for this guy. And that's exactly what they traded for him. But I didn't even think they'd get it I thought they'd have to get it for this year. They got it for next year. Even better value for what Justin Fields brings. And then you also throw in his interceptions. His lowest interception count was this past year with 9 interceptions. He's thrown 30 in 3 years. So you look at that and you're thinking like, okay, that needs to be cleaned up, and it does. But the Steelers have to hope that in their system where they're not going to be asking the quarterback to make 1 billion throws. They're not going to be asking him to be Patrick Mahomes in the prime. In fact, I think even Patrick Mahomes this past year is closer to what the Steelers are going to ask of their quarterbacks, even though still Patrick Mahomes is kind of a different story. He's, the best quarterback in the NFL. But point being, if you looked at how the Chiefs used Mahomes this year versus years where they had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce with everybody else, they weren't asking him to chuck the ball every time. They were running the ball. They were playing more conservative. They were trusting their defense to win more big games. And that worked for them. And Patrick Mahomes was just still amazing and elite in that formation. But again, the Steelers are looking for a quarterback who can be a good game manager and make plays on their own sometimes. Where a better comparison is Brock Purdy, and you look at guys of his caliber. Justin Fields, if he's going to mature under Russell Wilson and become the Steelers' starting quarterback someday, he's going to have time to do that, and he's going to be able to figure out, hey, what do we do versus this situation versus that situation? How do I improve to protect myself from turnovers? How do I continue to improve my passing efficiency numbers to combine with those rushing numbers and learn when to rush with those numbers? Now, looking at Justin Fields' just numbers as far as how he's passed in different situations, we've talked a lot about how play action is going to be a big factor. Well, play action was a big factor for him when he was with the Bears last year. 55 completions on 90 attempts, 800 yards, averaged almost 9 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Solid numbers there. Nothing spectacular out of this world, but good signs there. And I think that's where things can get kind of interesting when you look at those numbers and how he's going to perform there. He also threw well on deep passes last year, which we also talked about how that is a Russell Wilson trait as well. You look at his deep passing numbers this past year, 23 completions on 52 attempts. That's 44% of passes that traveled at least 20 yards in the air were completed. That's a very good rate. Averaged 12.9 yards per attempt. 8 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. That's a very, very good ratio when you look at how he's performed there. And another sign that Justin Fields, no one doubts that guy, as far as when it comes to how he plays, no one doubts that he has the athleticism that you want at quarterback. He has the arm strength. He has the speed. He's Kenny Pickett's size and 6'3", 220 plus. But let's compare that to Kenny Pickett's deep passing numbers. Kenny Pickett, threw a lot less deep passes last year. 28 to Justin Fields' 52, completed 9 to Justin Fields' 23, and completed for 342 yards to Justin Fields' 673 yards. And then you look at the touchdowns, 2 touchdowns on deep passes for Kenny Pickett, 8 for Justin Fields, 3 interceptions for Kenny Pickett, 2 for Justin Fields. So across the board, Justin Fields has been a better deep passing quarterback, at least just last year, looking at these two guys and quickly pulling up their numbers from 2022 just to compare those side by side. Kenny Pickett also in those years also not as good of a touchdown to interception ratio, not as many yards, a little bit higher of a completion percentage in 2022. But by and large, you combine just those 2 years alone, excluding Justin Fields' rookie year, and just look at those guys side by side. Justin Fields is a better deep thrower there, and that might be what the Steelers ask him to do a bunch, because you look at how he plays, and you look at how how he can fit into an offense. Arthur Smith can say, "Hey, running the ball," and also include, when Justin Fields ever becomes part of the plan, you can include him in the running game with Najee Harris. You can run some more option plays that force people to watch the quarterback. And for how long has Mike Tomlin been talking about wanting a mobile quarterback who can do that? He was talking about that stuff way back when Ben Roethlisberger was still quarterback in the Steelers, and saying it would be nice to have that. And Kenny Pickett brought you youth and mobility and able to move that around, but he wasn't fast. Like Kenny Pickett, he had the fake slide play at Pitt that I covered live, and that was a very impressive moment. But it's different when Justin Fields doesn't need to fake slide because he's just going to be too fast to be caught. That's where I think that they're hoping he can come into factor there. And again, this isn't even for right now. Russell Wilson is going to be QB1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, and we'll have lots of time to evaluate him. But on the day that Justin Fields is traded to the Steelers, we gotta look at that. We gotta look at it and say, hey, what are the pros? What are the cons? I don't see a drawback right now, other than you look at his turnover numbers. But again, you paid nothing to get this guy. You gave away your first round quarterback. You only traded up from the 4th to the 3rd round and got a couple 7th round picks. I was even saying I get it if he gotta go. If Kenny Pickett has to go, he has to go. But I look at this situation and I say, you need another young quarterback in the room, which is why I said on the emergency episode I did Friday afternoon, when we found out that Kenny Pickett was traded away, I was like, the thing that makes the most sense is go and get Justin Fields and try to keep that trade price down. They accomplished both of those marks. So now you have a younger quarterback in the room. Now I think the Steelers can even go back to saying what I said before. Hey, you don't even need a Michael Penix. You don't need a Bo Nix. You can wait until Joe Milton in the 4th or 5th round and get a quarterback there and say, all right, we've got a rookie quarterback that's going to learn behind 2 guys that have been in the NFL for multiple years. We have Justin Fields who's waiting to prove that he can be the first round pick that he was picked to be. You got Russell Wilson who's just trying to prove that he's still got it and he's not over the hill anymore. He's not washed. You got a situation there where you can work. So you have multiple options to hit at quarterback and develop something into something good there. And that reset allows you to say, okay, new slate. This is how the offense is going to work. No, none of these quarterbacks have worked with Matt Canada. None of them have to worry about the frustrations that came with that offense. This is a new day for the Steelers. And honestly, it's a new day for this front office. Let's talk about that for a second. Omar Khan has gone ballistic. It is insane what the Steelers have done. I don't have a comparison. Again, I'm going to talk about this more throughout the week and throughout the season, because right now it's just been it's been just a phenomenal switch of how the Steelers operate in free agency. But one of the things that I've done over my time to get to where I am now and how I keep trying to grow and move forward is I look at people that are more experienced than me at working on things and covering things like the Pittsburgh Steelers. And like, especially when I came in, that's why I talk to guys like Mark Caboli, like Jim Wexel. I've worked with guys like Dale Lally, guys that have been around the team for a very long time and have the perspective of saying, hey, I've been there when they traded away Jermaine Stevens. I've been there when they traded up to get Troy Polamalu. I've been there when they went and got San Antonio. They saw the Super Bowls. They've seen Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin. They know this organization, and they've been there to cover it. And I've gone off of like, okay, how do these guys interpret these things? And that's why sometimes I'll wait and say, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen here. And I don't have immediate thought on what this exactly means. Let me study on how other people handle things, and let's see how that compares out. And that's kind of how I built up my understanding of that's how these guys think. Now I can form my own opinion, and that was years ago. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I can react more reasonably to situations. But here's the thing. All the precedent in the world is thrown out right now. There's no situation that you look at right now and say, oh yeah, this is just like that time for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because none of it is. They never traded for a Super Bowl champion quarterback and then traded away their first-round quarterback and then traded for another first-round quarterback in the span of a week. This is unheard of. And that's not to mention the other moves that they're making, the trading away of a number one wide receiver for a corner that's going to be your second corner, the signing of a big name at linebacker. And we've seen that before. James Ferrier, that's worked out in the past for them, the kind of investment that they're making in Patrick Queen. And I bet you they're hoping that it can be something along those lines. Patrick Queen at the right age, I think, and talent level to do that. But while all that's going on, they're still finding ways to be able to make it work with this quarterback situation. Like this could have been like a terrible spot where a miserable Kenny Pickett with Ryan Tannehill and guys and things didn't work out. Now you have Russell Wilson, who's determined to make it work here, because let's face it, if Russell Wilson don't make it work here, where else is he going to make it work after this? Now you have him, you have Justin Fields, who's motivated to prove that he's going to do something. Now he gets to go to a place where he's going to be able to work. And then you could still add another young quarterback to this room that can learn behind him. Who knows? Maybe even get a vet like bring Josh Dobbs back. That's a third quarterback who everyone likes on the team and in the organization, and has shown that he can be an emergency quarterback and still give you some hope and some life. I really do think that there's a lot of reason to like what the Steelers have done and how they've managed what is a tumultuous quarterback situation. And if you agree with me, let me know in the comments section on YouTube. If you don't, let me know there too. But I'm telling you right now, I do think that this Steelers team, they're making unprecedented changes, which means we could be having some unprecedented results coming up in the rest of the year. But they still have to have another draft class. Last year's draft class, we talked about, at least for a first-year response, they knocked it out of the park. If you like what they're doing in free agency right now, maybe you'll like what they're doing in the draft in another month or so. There's a lot of things to break down. We'll keep breaking them down here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com. Find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every Monday through Friday, and sometimes whenever they just keep making moves and I can't get any sleep on weekends, right here on your favorite podcasting app on YouTube. Again, back in action on Monday where we get a full response, unless they trade for somebody else. Who knows? But we'll be back in action on Monday with a full episode of the Locked On Steelers podcast.